Coming to you from the LoadingReadyRun orbiting underground moon base, it's the LRRcast. Hello.
Hello.
Graham here.
And Paul.
And this is...
And that's it.
the LRRcast. This has been the LRRcast.
Yeah, such as it is.
Yeah, exactly. This is sort of a look back on the LRRcast. For those of you who are unaware, we are wrapping up the LRRcast to, I don't want to say replace it, because it's going to be a different thing, but we are...
Yeah, we're doing this new show as part of the a sort of new style for the live streaming. And we're doing, and it will fill a lot of the same, I guess, the same niche.
Yeah.
As the LRRcast.
Yeah. We didn't realize, actually, until we decided to record this episode, that it's been almost exactly 10 years.
Yeah, it was
since the first LRRcast.
It was the end of April.
It was April 28th, 2006.
That we did the first one.
That was the first one, and we're recording this on May 6th, 2016.
It's actually, interestingly enough, if I recall correctly, the first one was done, we were recording it on your laptop, talking into a lapel mic that was like clipped to a camera tripod.
Were we? Weren't we just recording directly into the computer?
No, I think like we had
I know for a while we recorded just into the laptop mic.
Yeah. But I think that was later.
Yeah.
It's I think the first one
into like the line in on the laptop
was just the two of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we recorded.
Well, I mean, it was just the two of us for a while because the LRRcast began because I want to say that I came to you and was like, hey, we should do a podcast, and you were like, why? And I'm like, I don't know, because it's like more content. We can talk about the things. We can answer questions. And you were like, all right, sure.
Yeah.
Why not? There's no reason not to. And initially it was you and I and guests.
Right.
Because it was like it wasn't like firmly the crew at that point. It was just like, well, I guess it might have been
2006.
But we knew that we could get us together for the podcast.
Right.
And yeah, with 2006, it was the first episode was the one for Hagiography Today. And the point was that we would talk about that week's video.
Right. It was the idea. It was more of kind of a behind the scenes.
Yeah.
This is before we had Loading Time or
well before Loading Time. Didn't have Twitter, so there was no.
Didn't have Twitter or any kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Stuff.
There was a forum and we had the blog, but we didn't. This was like our only outlet for here's information about the video and what we thought of it and what our inspiration was for writing it and how we shot it and that sort of thing. And they were shorter. They were like half an hour, if that.
Yeah.
More digestible, which is maybe not a bad thing.
Now we work on just getting it real stuck in your throat.
Yeah.
As you're digesting it.
Big wad of podcast.
Big wad.
Welcome to the Loading Ready Run Wadcast. Choke it down.
The thing I mean, I guess it's not necessarily the podcast that is unique in this respect, but certainly something that has been illustrated over the years, both in podcasts and in live things and conventions and stuff, is that you get us talking about stuff, and it's hard to stop sometimes.
But we'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anytime, like doing like I've done, you do various interviews with things, either on other podcasts or for various things, and I'll always usually like preface but before I go on, just be like, look, I'm kind of long-winded in what I talk and stuff, and I really, I like. And I get, you ask me about a question, and I'll try to answer that question. But then that will get me all excited about that topic.
I'll start talking about something else,
and I'll think of all these other cool things that I could tell you.
Tangents.
And then we'll start talking about that, and it'll probably be quite entertaining for you too.
Yeah.
And so, you and the host will be talking about something, and then like 10 minutes later, you realize that you never actually answered the original question.
Yep.
And then you're like, and so it's like, yeah, that'll probably happen. So feel free to edit it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or to cut me off.
Yeah.
If I'm rambling.
That's actually, I'm going to illustrate that point beautifully. That's actually one of the first things I ask. Like when someone's like, "Hey, can you be on my podcast?" And when I'm on Skype, the first thing I'll ask is like, "Do you edit this?"
Right.
Right? Because sometimes, as we do for the LRRcasts, people will just take the podcast as one recorded chunk and go and put that on the internet. Right? Maybe they'll cut off the beginning and the end, but they'll just like thump. And other people, when it's audio only and they can do this, they'll cut out when someone goes, or they'll, trim stuff out. And the main reason I'm asking that in that case is like, if I have to go to the bathroom or if I sort of colossally trip over my own tongue, I'll be like, is there opportunity for you to make me look better?
Well, that's, I mean, talking about, I guess, podcasts in general, the Fight the Future.
Yeah.
That my brother and I did.
Fight the Future with Dan and Paul.
Was quite heavily edited.
Mm-hmm. Same with Magnum Rewatch, same with Corkland.
So we would take, we would record often for usually at least an hour, if not like an hour and a half, and then that would go down to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And Dan did all the editing for that, and he was really good about taking out. He didn't like take out all the like little ums and everything, but taking out sort of. It's the combination of like digressions, like setups for jokes that don't go anywhere. Is a problem where like there'll be like the two of us and we'll be like, wouldn't it be funny if this? And then we can't actually think of any instances,
right?
Any riffs on that. Let's just keep going.
I do that with Sidewalk Slam. I actually edit pretty. Fairly judiciously. Mostly it's just because the nature of that podcast, we're trying to sort of play-by-play through episodes of Raw.
So you want to do it in the right order?
And so, not the right order, we're good about that, but usually we'll be like talking and be like, so this thing happened, and these are our thoughts on it, and this is what we think about this. Next was this happened.
Looking at notes,
and so I'll cut out like that pause of like, but occasionally we do go a little too deep and unnecessarily on a random digression that actually doesn't help anything.
Yeah.
And I'm hesitant even to say this because I know that people are going to be like, no, put them back in. But like twice, I think I've cut like. We just went off on a useless ass tangent for like a minute and a half, and I'm like, none of this needs to be in there. This is taking too long to get to the actual meat of the episode. So I've certainly trimmed.
And I guess, and with that one, you cut to the like just pictures with of wrestling
video.
Or
yeah,
video or
see, that's not a luxury that we have with the LRRcast or Tap Tap Concede.
Yeah.
The LRRcast has never been edited because we never.
No,
didn't care enough to. I guess it's not about care. It's that like this. We're not trying to do anything. The LRRcast was never trying to be anything different. It was never trying to be like
I feel like that,
fancy.
Yeah, I feel
podcast.
like that's sort of part of the appeal of the LRRcast.
Yeah, it's just that it was
sort of raw, uncensored.
Raw, uncensored loading ready run.
Except for the occasional times when we've censored things.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Or the times when we've tried to censor things but then forgot to censor it before we actually released it, and it just went out there anyway.
Yeah, I think actually the most consistent thing we've had to edit out of LRRcasts is at the old Moonbase when Glenn would come in with the mail.
Or flushing.
Or flushing.
Although we usually would just talk
sort
through
of
that.
forced through the flushing. We lean into it. So I'm trying to remember. So we started recording the LRRcast at where I live, which was my parents' place at the time, on a laptop. And then when I moved in with Bill and Morgan, then we would record it over there. And that was easier to get other people involved because there was other people. And again, that was just, on the laptop.
Yeah, and it would get, like at certain times, it got silly.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, you can see it even in like, especially some of the earlier video podcasts. Mm-hmm. There'll be like 8 people there.
Yeah.
Because we were just like, because again, we were just talking about the video, and then we would like do some Q&A stuff sometimes.
And at the time, that's like all we did.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was.
And so it would just be like anybody who's around, be on the podcast.
Yeah.
And that's probably when they started getting to be really long.
Yeah, probably. That was probably why. We did dabble briefly. I remember, I'm sure we talked about this at the time. We dabbled with trying to get a better microphone, and we got a blue microphone. Lots of people use blue microphones for podcasting.
Yeah, the Snowball.
It's a USB microphone. We got the blue Snowball, which is apparently it's great for one person if they're right up on it. But they said it was an omnidirectional microphone, but it just sucked for our purposes. It just didn't. It was too quiet. It didn't get the room. I don't know what exactly was the issue, but they also had absolutely no customer service at the time. Maybe they've improved. I don't know. But like their forums were dead. They didn't reply to emails. And we were like, all right, fuck you. We're returning it.
There's still very much a going concern.
Yeah. So I guess they've improved in that regard. But anyway, when we went back to using just the onboard laptop microphone in this old MacBook because we were like, it sounds better.
Yeah. The onboard microphone sounded actually fine, except that the laptop's fan would start kicking in.
Yes, that was the problem.
And so there's definitely some podcasts that go like woo in the middle of the podcast.
I had to make sure it was plugged in so it didn't like fan itself, running itself down.
Yeah, and I think it has ran out of batteries a few times.
That was, yeah. And then I don't think we wouldn't have ever recorded one at my place when I lived with Matt because at that point we would have had the Moonbase.
Yeah, and I remember
the very first Moonbase.
I remember the two of us recording podcasts in the very first Moonbase. Mm-hmm. And I believe that's where you could probably, I'm pretty sure there's an early podcast where we came up with the orbiting underground Moonbase live on the air.
I think that was back at my parents' place. I think that was very early.
No, but I think it was when we moved to the new Moonbase because we were like, now we're coming.
Now we actually have a Moonbase.
But we were like, now we actually have an office, so we're here broadcasting from the orbiting base or the underground base, or like I think we actually came up with it. I'd have to listen to that podcast.
We came up with it. We did exactly as you're saying. At my parents' place.
Oh, okay. We just had
remember
that idea.
it. Yeah,
right.
we're like, we're for the orbiting underground Moonbase. Like, developed over, that joke. But then that's why when we got an office, that's why we called it the Moonbase.
Right.
Because we'd made that throwaway joke on the podcast.
And then,
and then it wasn't until I'm pretty sure it wasn't until the third Moonbase that we started doing video.
Yeah.
And we were at that place for like 5 years, but it wasn't
we never did video in the second Moonbase.
I think I pushed for that, and I don't remember why.
Frankly, I believe the first reason, like the initial reason for it, was that was when we started putting up stuff on YouTube.
Oh, right.
And we were like, if we make a video, we can put it on YouTube and put ads on it.
Oh, probably, yeah.
And whereas if it's just audio, there isn't really very good audio podcast ad solutions.
No, you have to get now podcasts can be sponsored.
Right, but we were never really big enough to get that anyway. So
that's true.
So unfortunately, we can't talk about whatever NatureBox or Stamps.com.
I was about to say that reminds me. You know how hard it is to ship all these Patreon things that we're doing. That's why we use Stamps.com. That's a lie. We don't.
Which is weird because we're in Canada.
Yeah, we can't use Stamps.com. I know that that's preferable for the advertisers, but that bugs me when podcasts do that, like trying to naturally work it into the conversation that they're talking to their interviewer, and then they're like. They ask what seems like an interview question. Well, hang on. Well, you're kind of like a health nut, aren't you? Like, well, I consider myself. Well, you know what I like to use is NatureBox. I like to get all my granola bars and shit from this. It's like Loot Crate, but for nuts and seeds, ancient grains.
I mean.
We listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, well, there's about maybe 10 companies that sponsor like 90% of the podcasts I listen to.
Yeah.
I guess it worked for them.
I guess so. But yeah, we don't. I mean, we've had a couple.
If NatureBox wants to send us things, we'll definitely promote it.
Yeah.
Their stuff sounds delicious.
We had a couple. We had an episode sponsored by Crunchyroll. Once that was fun.
Oh yeah, that was Cause we were doing that was
through our YouTube network. But anyway, So at the old Moonbase, we started the video podcast, which we didn't have a set, right? So it was just like let's just point a camera at us because we were using the computer. We had a computer out in the main area where James and I had started doing Magic streams because we started streaming Magic from my place, and then we moved it to the Moonbase. We were like, well, we have this thing set up, this computer set up to record video, so we can just turn it on, put the Zoom on a tripod, run it out to where we're all sitting on the couch. And we'd have like 5 people rammed on that couch, and then like maybe a 6th person on a chair beside the couch. And then just point a camera broadly there and be like, all right, that's sure video cast. Sometimes we would do it at the table, which was a little more spacious. And we're just using the internal mic on the Zoom, which is actually pretty good. The problem that's a very good mic. The problem with the table is that you had like 2 or maybe 3 people on their laptops on the table, and we had to be like, you can't. You can't do that.
Kind of,
Well, you can if you can like still be engaged with the podcast, which Matt could not.
Sort of a proto desert bus thing.
I mean, I know lots of podcasts have, I mean, even like you look at like Twit, like This Week in Tech, they have their laptops and everything there because they're like referring to stuff
because that's part of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not this podcast is boring me. I'm going to look up things on Wikipedia.
Let me just check Reddit here. But oh man, Wikipedia changed or iPhones. Do you remember? Again, this is unrelated to the podcast. You remember we were doing the second series, I think, of Rapid Fire. And we were writing the Rodriguez and Riley bit, but we didn't have internet at the Moonbase yet. We were at Moonbase Mark 1. We didn't in the 200 square foot cube room where we did Desert Bus 2. We did Desert Bus there.
About the size of this room.
It's smaller than this room. And we didn't have internet there, and iPhones were not a thing. And Nate had an internet connection thing on his he had like a data plan on his whatever cell phone he had. And so he was like,
and so you could looking
up. He was with like T9 search. He was looking up Wikipedia, and we like figured out a Rodriguez and Riley bit that way. That was rough. And then eventually, what predicated actually constructing the set?
Well, there's so we were doing that, and then we started doing the those games we played. Chunk of the LRRcast. And we did that for a while, and then at a certain point,
we spun that off into its own.
At a certain point, we decided that we would do that separately, and I think that closely. I think that was around the same time actually that we were like that we kind of revamped the podcast set.
Did we alternate? Maybe James can help me out with this. Did we go into a period of time where we alternated LRRcast those games, or did we do we do both every week?
I don't remember if we. I feel like we continued to do the LRRcast every week, but did those games every other week or something like that.
That seems familiar.
We didn't do them a lot because I remember it got to the point where we were doing those games we played inside the LRRcast, and often one of us would be like, I'm reading this book or watching this TV show, and we're like, all right, this isn't going to work. Let's just make a podcast specifically about games, and if you haven't been playing games, you don't get to be on the podcast.
Don't be on the podcast,
Yeah. But after because we went from sitting on that white leather couch, and we moved into the production office, where we had the table set up on the side, and we had the camera looking straight down, and we had the 4 chairs sort of pointed at the camera. And we had the monitor in the background.
For a period of time, though, didn't we actually have the table in the center of the room?
That's when we had the table in the center
facing each other.
Yeah,
and the camera was
that was
weird.
And again, that was actually related to the Magic streaming setup.
Right, we streamed Magic from there.
Because that was the only thing that you streamed that we streamed.
Right.
And so we had that set up for Magic streaming.
Right.
And we were like, well, we've got the setup for Magic streaming, and the setup for podcasting. Like what you need to Magic stream, what you need to podcast, or what you need to stream video, what you need to podcast is basically the same. You just don't record it, or you don't stream it. You just record it. So why don't we just do that? And so we were like that for a while, and where we had it,
we had like a little monitor at the end of the table.
Yeah, and there was like 2 people on each side of the table.
Yeah.
And that worked okay, except the big problem I always had with that...
Getting around the table.
Well, getting around the table always sucked. But the big problem I always had with that is, I think it was me and Kathleen, because I'm smaller. Kathleen and I would always be like in the front, and then you two would be in the back, or it depended on who was there. Right. But I would almost always be in the front, and which looks okay on camera. But the problem is that when like you're talking, then I'm like this.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I was getting like, I got like a serious cramp in my neck a few times. Of being like, it's like I can either look at you like a normal person would, or I can look into the camera, which looks dumb.
The correct way, I guess, would have been to look at the camera and not at us, because we can still hear you whether or not you're looking at us. But that feels so unnatural to not converse with the person that you're in the room with.
It's whether it's whether it's like a conversation or it's like a presentation.
Yeah.
And the podcasts have always been more conversation, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so we did that for a while until I can't remember why we got fed up with it and realized that it would be better just to run desks across one side of the room and put like a floating table in the middle of it.
Yeah, well, it was another revamp of the. I think it was actually more a revamp of like the editing setup.
Yeah.
That might have actually been when we brought in the Mac Pro.
I can tell you right now that we switched from that.
You're looking at the thumbnails?
Yeah, I'm looking right here. We went from the side-on desk, or looking down the side of the desk on February 7th. Of 2014, and then March 1st, we switched, and we went to the floating desk in the middle with the 4 of us sort of in behind it.
2014.
That's so much more recent than I thought.
It should also be noted that at this point, the LRRcast was just AskLRR, right? We had since.
Well, we did do.
No, this was the time. This was the age of that completely off the wall thread in the forums.
Yeah.
That we just referenced for every video, because at this point, loading time was a thing, right?
Yeah. No, we did still try to do behind the scenes video stuff.
Yeah, but it occupied like 10 or 15 minutes.
But it would often start like we would start doing that. And that section became smaller and smaller as there were loading times, and there was just like not that much to talk about. And we would talk about Feed Dump, and we would talk about different shows.
Didn't we also, for a period of time when we were just like, this is purely just AskLRR now, we would cycle. We would do like a thread on the forums, and then we would ask on Reddit, and then we would ask on Facebook, and we would cycle those 3.
I don't think we ever asked on Reddit.
But it was a thread on the forums.
I meant Twitter. I don't know why I said Reddit.
And then Facebook.
That was later, because originally we just had that thread in the forums, which got to be over 100 pages long.
That was way before.
And we were answering questions. It was I think it was at about this time that we made the switch, that we were like, we just burned that thread, because we were answering questions from like months up to a year old.
Yeah, we had. So for those keeping score, we had just this one big AskLRR thread. It's still there.
Yep.
You open it up. Throw us a question.
What's the last question that? Yeah. How long ago did that thread stop?
We had this thread, and it filled up so quickly and so fast, and continued to fill so fast with questions that we couldn't answer them all in time. Like, we used to clear like a page of questions in one, but we would get like, there'd be like a page and a half every week, and so eventually we were like
over 6 years or however long we were doing that.
Eventually we were like 15 pages behind. Or more than that, and the questions we were answering were like up to a year old, and we were like, we can't. This isn't sustainable.
And sometimes the questions would be like, what did you think of that convention you just went to?
Yeah, we're like,
which was now like a year ago. My favorite thing was people started like doing like placeholders in the thread.
Oh yeah.
Like people would just be like, this. I'm gonna edit this to be my question once they get closer to it.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So yeah, we decided that was a bad idea.
Yeah, that was not sustainable. So then we moved to cycling. I don't know why I said Reddit. Cycling between a new forum thread that would stick around very briefly and not have an opportunity to balloon, or we would do Ask on Twitter, which happened more often than the other ones, or we would do like a Facebook thread. James?
Would you like your question?
Sure, bring it on.
All right. This is from By9.
Okay.
Is this the last question that was asked?
This is the last question that was asked. Do you guys enjoy relish?
In moderation, I would say.
Sometimes these are the questions we get. Yeah, I do. I like relish on hot dogs.
Ooh, this is a good one, though. I like this one. The one before it,
Wait, what was the date on that question?
September 2010.
Okay.
2010.
Yeah, so we abandoned that thread well before.
There were 2 threads, I think.
Okay.
I don't know where the other thread went. Highlander asks in September 2010, so when you eventually get this far,
Oh, God.
so there you go, Highlander.
Finally.
We got
6
there.
years.
Yeah.
How famous are you, and can I have some of your money from your vast piles? Not that, and
yeah.
not that much, and no.
You know, as internet goes, we're
In comparison
okay.
to 2010, we were probably doing better than we
Yeah.
were.
I don't have piles. I have pile, and it's not vast. It's not. It's not huge, but we're doing okay.
Yeah, we're not doing too badly, but we're not in a position to just randomly hand out money to people.
Yeah. Sorry, Highlander. I'm sorry it took so long to get to your question. If you have a follow up, let us know.
We'll answer it in another 6 years.
Yeah. So then.
So I think, like, I was thinking about the timing, and I think it might have been when we got the new Mac Pro, the little one. And so we needed a space to do that.
Yeah.
And so that sort of instigated a reorganization of the office.
Yeah, so you will have seen the setup on some loading times, but it was basically, there was just a desk across that whole wall that had 2 workstations, and in between them was a soundboard and a camera on as far back as it could get, and the camera pointed across the room at what was now a table that 3 people reasonably or 4 people at a pinch could fit behind for
Yeah, we did it.
podcasting purposes.
We often would do 2 and then 2 people straddling the legs on either side of the table.
Yep.
And and then at that
And we
point
had the show logo on an old ass iMac in the foreground.
Yeah, that iMac. We still have that iMac.
Yeah.
And that was all that iMac did.
That iMac weighs a ton. It's
And,
so heavy.
And at that point, we also got we had the SM58 mics. too.
Yes.
I'm going to step in now and be the tangent driver.
Please.
So my job affords me the opportunity to see some really nice houses.
Okay.
And I was out at a house the other day that's just a little bit out of town. Probably, like, if I had to guess, 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. Gorgeous farmhouse, brand new. Probably, I think it was built 3 years ago.
Nice.
My guess would be several $1 million.
Okay.
In the office of this home were 2 of those iMacs being used as their main daily driver computers. And I'm like, why?
The old one- the really old ones?
Yeah, the giant white thick ones that we use to display those images.
Wow.
Were these people's main computers
I'm amazed they had a desk that could hold 2 of them up.
in their multi-million-dollar home. I just wanted to yell at her and be like, no, stop it.
At least upgrade to the ones
probably-
with like the melon ball and the swivel.
Yeah.
Probably does email okay.
Not really. Like, ours runs like shit. Like, that does not run very well.
Ours doesn't load like
It can't-
Web 2.0's things that like it doesn't load
Yeah.
YouTube. It just sort of goes, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It probably can't even run the latest version of Flash.
Probably not.
Now that I think about it, where is that
What?
computer? I know we still
It's
have
in
it.
the
but-
editing office.
Oh yeah, it is. Right. Yeah, we should replace that with a computer that can do stuff so people can work on it. Then when, James, you can find out when did we stop doing those games? And then we can think
'Cause-
about why.
Well,
We stopped playing games. We decided video games were shit and that
Yeah.
we hated them all and we were no.
I think with those
We-
games, it was just a matter of like, we would do it, and like week after week, we would get together and be like, okay,
Well,
LRRcast,
I'm still
no
playing,
problem.
I'm still playing Metal Gear, so
And yeah, it would just be, there was, 5 or 6 or 7 of us, and just because of being busy and various other things that we were doing, we didn't go through games because we're not game reviewers or anything, so we're actually playing the games legitimately.
yeah.
and we weren't going through games fast enough.
Yeah.
And sometimes like 2 weeks would go by, and nobody had been playing anything new.
And also, oh wait, I know why we stopped. So that was a problem. But also, we were like, well, we're going to be doing streaming when we started doing the year of LRR with the streaming, which because originally as part of the Kickstarter we were like, and we'll do a bunch of game streaming. And people were like, okay, that sounds cool. And then when we launched it, our fans were like, this is more involved than we thought. And we were like, yeah, we're going for it.
It turned out to be more of a thing.
Yeah, and we realized that we don't need to get 3 or 4 people together once a week to talk about what games they're playing when you can just see what games we're playing. Instead of like, let me tell you about me playing Fallout. It can be like, here, watch me play Fallout and I'll tell you what I like about it.
Yeah. And so that kind of replaced those games.
Mm-hmm. I guess we're going to have a little less of that with the new schedule, but I don't think that's going to predicate bringing those games we played back. I think there will still be opportunity to talk about stuff. Because again, what we're talking about is that the Loading Ready Live, this Saturday show, will still have opportunity for talking. It just won't be as long. See, we were discussing this, and it's like there'll be, we will answer questions from the chat room. I'm sure, we'll have like a time slot for that, but it won't be like an hour, right? It'll be like
hopefully it'll be a
little
bit more focused.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, focus, right? So instead of like, hey, you want to do a podcast on Star Wars? Let's just go in there and talk about how much we like Star Wars for an hour. It'll be like, a 5 to 10 minute thing about like whatever 3 people are on camera. Be like, hey, I saw Civil War. I really like this and this. Much more sort of focused, like you say, which I think will be good. Also, I know that Ian, Heather, and Corey are pleased that it will force Beej to be more succinct with his anime feedback.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
I think those games we played ended about 2.5 years ago. I can't actually figure it out.
So right about when the streaming started.
Yeah, like that.
That's 2.5 years ago. Is like right online.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that and I recall that as definitely being.
That was a main reason for it. Is we were like, well, if we're just going to be playing games, we don't need to then also talk about it separately.
And like there are games that I play not on stream, but there aren't that many.
Yeah.
And if I like a game a lot that I'm not playing on stream, I might end up playing it on stream or talk about it on stream or whatever.
You don't need to. You wouldn't have needed to hear me talk about Destiny again, again.
Right. Well, that was the other thing.
That's basically the only game I played for about a year and a half there.
Yeah. And that was the other thing. Like with those games, is like, there was a lot of like, WoW, I guess.
Yeah. It was like, well, I'm still playing WoW. Oh, okay, cool. That's
you haven't finished it yet, eh? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That's weird.
I thought you were into the final. I thought you were at the final boss. Okay.
It can never truly be defeated.
So yeah, that and then
then when
the next transition was moving it downstairs.
Which was much more recent.
1 year ago today.
Was it really? I was going to say, I figured it wasn't that long ago.
Well, that was when the first, May 6, 2015, is when the very first, and it was called the writing process for the LRRcast, went online. And that was the first podcast we recorded downstairs in the old moon base.
And so that was
what predicated that? Did we do that for any reason other than
moving downstairs?
Yeah,
just because I wanted
to give it more of a set.
Yeah,
I think it was that
and also I think we were trying to just reclaim space upstairs. We just needed more editing room for people, and we just didn't have that space that we needed. So
just sort of pushing the, trying to push the sort of professionalism up a little bit.
Production value, raise it.
And so then we had, that's when we actually, had built the set, assembled the set is probably more like rather than build it.
Yeah. And we got those headset mics, which
turned out to be not quite as nice as we were hoping.
It's a shame because it's like you see headset mics used in broadcast all the time, and they sound fine because they're the full like headphones, the full like deal. And my worry was that lapel mics, of the kind that you'll notice we are using right now, my worry is that these would be annoying to, you have to run them up your shirt before you start recording, and when you move around, they'll rustle on your clothing or whatever. Turns out that hasn't really been a problem. Like once or twice.
It does happen occasionally.
Once or twice, they've gotten like caught in Cam's collar, and it's been like kind of muffly. But the headsets, man, they were just way noisier. It was like you move your head
basically you moved your head at all, and I still feel like maybe there was something we were doing wrong. Because the headsets are like supposed to be for somebody like walking back and forth on stage and doing stuff like that. Like clearly they can be set up in such a way that they don't make that noise. Mm-hmm. But either the combination of how we were using them and how we had it set up or whatever meant that it was not as good.
So when we moved here in January, we upgraded to the lapel mics, which have been great. Actually, they've come in super handy, not just for this, but for other uses as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that they've worked supremely well for the podcasting.
Yeah, I mean the concern, especially the like putting them on and taking them off, is kind of a pain, but not really any more so than the headsets.
It takes like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Actually, the headsets were more annoying because it was like
getting it
to fit. Because like you compare, for example, my head to Kathleen's head. Yeah. Very, very different sizes of head. And so if I tried to put on one that she'd been wearing, it was like crunched in. And if she tried to put mine on, it would just fall straight off her.
Yeah.
And so you have to size them and get them to sit properly and have them not like flip backwards or, this, you just clip it to your shirt and it's fine. So it's like, well, all right then, I guess we should have done this initially. But here we are.
Of course, actually, what you did just there is the one thing that doesn't work very well. You and Alex have
beards.
The beard interference.
I couldn't see. Did I rub it directly?
I don't know. You might have.
How did that sound? Was it a problem, James? No. Sounds good. All right. Yeah, beard interference is definitely a problem. And having it, if you have like a hoodie and you clip it and it rubs on your shirt. But these are all solvable problems. Anyway, the point is, when we moved the LRRcast downstairs, correct me if I'm wrong, this is when we made this choice, that we were like, okay, enough doing AskLRR every effing week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was when we stopped doing that. We're like, if we're going to keep doing the LRRcast, let's present it as, a content with value, right? Let's present it as like a piece of content and do like, themed episodes. And I think we did some really, really good LRRcasts in the past year.
Yeah. I mean, the way I always saw it is sort of, it was basically still AskLRR, but we would take like one question.
Yeah.
And talk about that.
That's true. We did frequently ask people for topics.
And the question would be, like, what's the worst job you've had? Or, stuff like that.
Yeah, those were some great episodes.
And like, so the idea being that it's less like, just sort of, I guess, like a panel at a convention or something. Mm-hmm. And more actually sort of getting in depth about stuff. Yeah,
which I thought was really cool. And we did occasionally do some AskLRR in there as well.
Yeah.
And so, while it was nice to have the outlet for stuff like, the Star Wars thing, we did still run into, despite a great flurry months of like really interesting stuff and some really good, like I said, suggestions for things, we did frequently run into the sort of okay, what are we doing this week? Mm-hmm. What are we talking about? It's got to be a topic that can sustain an hour of people discussing it. And sometimes we'd hit on a really good one and we'd do 2. We'd have like 3 people and then 3 other people and we get 2 episodes out of it. And other times we'd be like, can anyone think of anything? No? I guess we're doing AskLRR again.
We also experimented with, there's at least one podcast, if not, I think we might have done it twice, where we deliberately had no topic. We just like sat down and started talking.
That was one of my favorites actually.
Yeah.
When we were just like, let's just make it up. I think we only did the one of those. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you could have done another one when I wasn't at.
I think we did one here, but anyway.
I did enjoy that, but it turns out, I mean, like we said, we've been doing it for 10 years, and even though it wasn't that explicitly like metered out in the early years. Running kind of low on the tank of personal stories of my life.
There's always the problem where it's like when you are
that I want to share with you.
When you meet a new person, like a new friend or whatever, you're like, this is great. I can tell all my stories again, and they will be bored.
Yeah.
And the problem with the podcast is, after doing it for 10 years, I don't remember. So I certainly don't remember all the stuff I've said. And so I do kind of wonder sometimes, like I'll be like halfway through talking about something in the podcast and be like, I'm pretty sure I said this before.
Yeah,
like
I do that a lot.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
They aren't all, the iTunes feed, I think, only goes back so far.
Yeah.
But all the podcasts, all of them, are available on LoadingReadyRun.com. If you go to LRRcast, you can go all the way back to Hagiography Today. If you really want to listen to 2006 us, our voices sound different, slightly different. Yours is a little bit more noticeable than mine.
Yeah.
Which is just sort of
before my
it's 10 years
operation.
Ago. Before your
on my face.
Your face operation to remove the beard.
Yes, yeah.
It was invasive.
Yeah.
And not voluntary. Tie him down, get the beard. I was going somewhere else with that, and now I can't remember. Now just the face-off imagery is now all I can think about. So we, like I said, we're coming up sort of every week on like, what do we talk about this week? What do we do? And so that's part of the reason that I'm actually really excited for this change, because it means that we don't have to come up every week with a topic that fills an hour of scintillating conversation between three of us. We can just be like, hey, I saw a movie or I started playing a game and here's my 5-minute take on it, and now we can move on. I think this will be a good change.
Yeah, and I mean, in listening to this podcast, which hopefully will be going up before the new thing comes, maybe.
Should do. Yeah.
It may be clear from listening to this that we don't necessarily know what form this new thing is going to take.
Yeah, I'm starting to get more of an idea.
Yeah, we've got like kind of a general outline of what we want to do and stuff, but it is definitely going to be an evolutionary process, and just like the podcast, we've talked about all the different changes that the podcast has gone through, and I'm sure the live thing will have a similar thing, except probably sort of it'll be a much more sort of compressed, iterative process, because we'll have the chat there.
Yeah, you'll have a much more organic hand in this.
Yeah, much more direct feedback. So I think it'll be really interesting. We'll get to see what kind of stuff we can come up with for the new thing.
Loading Ready Live. It's Loading Ready Live. It's
Loading Ready Live.
It's just gonna be Loading Ready Live.
Loading Ready Live, and then in brackets underneath, not the live stage show, and also not the live streaming. This is a new live thing.
Yeah. It's
a bit of a long name, but
we can't come up with a better name. Like we've thrown around so many ideas. Some of them are like fine, some of them are real stupid, and it's just like
Live to Ready Run was my idea.
So we did this live show in the Fringe called Loading Ready Live, and we did it like not that many people saw it. It's largely irrelevant to most of our fan base, so that's like whatever. But then the streaming, having called the streams Loading Ready Live for the past couple of years, that's also like branding confusion, because it's like the channel's called Loading Ready Run. And we're Loading Ready Run, but this is Loading Ready Live. But if you don't know that it's Loading Ready Run doing it, then it's just sort of... So it's just going to be Loading Ready Run streams. And then the show will be Loading Ready Live, and that will bother the hell out of the Wikipedia archivists. But I think it'll probably make the most sense. Even though I specifically said at PAX East that we're not calling the show that, because it would annoy the Wikipedia archivists.
So you've decided that we don't care that much.
So apologies to King Cool and the rest of you, but it's just the best name for it. It's the name that makes the most sense.
It's either that or Wizard Chat. And it's not going to be Wizard Chat.
Or Kathleen's other favorite go-to, Beards.
Right.
But again, there's only two of us now. No, Ian has a beard too.
That can maybe be a subject within...
Ian has a beard, but I identify so much more that he has a mustache. I know he has a beard. But when I think, and you're like, what kind of facial hair does Ian have? Well, he's got a mustache. I know that. He also has a beard, doesn't he? Yes, he does. He does have a beard, you know. But it's because he looks like he's going to tie someone to the railway tracks.
Maybe beards could be a segment.
Jesus Christ, he's here and he just stuck his head in the door. I didn't know he was here. That's terrifying. Well, I'm going to go get tied to the railway tracks.
All right.
Apparently. But yeah, I think that sort of, from a very meta perspective, that covers nicely the history of the LRRcast and its various changes.
And we've done some AskLRR as well. Let's get one more AskLRR question.
Yeah, do you have
James?
the thread up still?
Get it.
All right, James is going to get the AskLRR thread back up. Someone
6-year-old AskLRR question.
I really hope someone listening is like, yes, it finally paid off.
What page would you like? Give me a page. There are 100 pages.
Phew. Okay, let's go for somewhere in the sort of the dead zone where we definitely wouldn't have answered. Let's go page 86.
6.
Because we definitely would have stopped before the back
Expo
third.
86.
Oh yeah. Expo. Here's a funny story from my childhood. The Victoria Clipper, right? The Clippers that goes from here to Seattle. There was one that went to Vancouver during Expo 86, and it would leave from the Inner Harbor, meaning that my parents' place in Oak Bay, if you looked out towards Discovery and Chatham Islands, you could see the Clipper, because it would have to come around and go that way to get to Vancouver.
Right.
So you could actually see the Clipper going past there. And because I was 2, I couldn't quite pronounce Expo 86, I would point at the Clipper excitedly and say, apple sex. And be like, look, apple sex. And my parents were like, apple sex? What are you? Oh,
Like,
Expo
this
86.
Kid has
I had a
some serious issues.
very rough understanding. I liked Expo Ernie. Their mascot was a spaceman. He was a little
Did your parents be like, no apples anymore?
Yeah, we're pulling you off apples, kid.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I'll give you a couple here.
All right, go for it.
All right. I like this top one because it makes me laugh. It is currently early January 2010.
No, it's not.
And you are 3 podcasts behind.
Okay.
What is the date
so
now?
far behind.
And how many are you behind now? It is May 6, 2016. And we are 1 podcast behind. And it will be up later this afternoon, so get off my back.
So we're doing pretty good.
We caught up.
Who's that question from?
That question was from Flawn Man.
Flawn Man.
With 78
Flan
posts.
Man, I guess.
Flan Man?
Yeah, I guess Flan Man.
Flan Man.
I don't know if they're still around.
Okay.
How about this one, Master Gunner? This is a real question. Asks, what piece or pieces of filming equipment are next on your to buy list?
Oh, DJI Ronin.
Okay.
A Steadicam.
Now, list everything we've
gimbaled
bought.
Steadicam rig.
List everything we've bought between when he asked this question and now, because that was probably. What do you think?
Our current camera.
What would have been
2 different prime lenses
this
for
is
that camera.
This is from January of 2010.
Yeah, what would have been the next thing that we had bought?
What do you think the next thing we bought around January of 2010 was? I have no idea.
The slider?
No, there's no way it's that old. Like the little pocket slider?
I'm just trying to think. We were shooting on DSLR at that point, weren't we?
I think so. It would have been around that. That's probably around when that.
It was
Switch
probably a
would've
better DSLR.
been. It's likely.
Or like
Yeah.
the Zoom or
The
something?
next thing, no, we would have been on. If we were using DSLR, we would have been using the Zoom. So I think the next thing probably would have been going from like the T2i to the 60D. Probably would have been the next thing.
Yeah, I don't know when that transition happened.
I don't know either.
6 years is a long time.
Yeah, I'd have to look at. It's probably a Wikipedia entry for it. Actually, I don't think the wiki entry for our equipment is up to date, but that's on us.
All right. Cybrin asks, are you considering implementing a question limit per post?
No,
No, but we should have.
we didn't.
We did not.
We can say definitively. It's nice because we can speak with future knowledge.
Yeah.
Not only do we not are we not considering putting anything, but we never considered it.
I'm gonna tag both because I know Cybrin and Master Gunner's Twitters. I'm going to tag them on Twitter and be like, hey, we answered your question in the next LRRcast. And they'll be like, what are you talking about?
All right. I'm trying to figure out one more here.
Okay.
To finish this off.
All right. Take us home, James. So we can turn the air conditioning on.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. There's stuff here about Tim. You guys remember Tim?
Tim has 2 children and lives in Edmonton.
Yeah.
With his wife.
All right.
They're very happy.
We're ending on this one.
Theoretically.
We're ending on Constantine's question.
Okay.
From January 25th, 2010.
That name does sound familiar.
28 posts.
All right.
So
I feel like I've seen that name in the chat.
Maybe.
I mean, it's like Constantine isn't necessarily a unique name, so it could be anybody. Constantine, you have the privilege of being the last question ever asked in this format of the LRRcast.
All right.
I was wondering whether or not LRR uses makeup in any capacity for its videos, or what the crew's opinions of makeup was.
Huh.
I guess theatrical makeup.
I guess.
I mean, we have used it for special effects purposes on occasion.
In ENN, for the first several years of ENN, I wore makeup.
Just foundation.
Yeah, just like and powder to stop
you being
glare.
glare.
And then
we decided
I just got sick of it. I mean, obviously, because society deems it so, all the girls that we know wear makeup whenever they're on camera. But none of the guys do that I'm aware of. Actually, that's a lie. I have actually worn cover-up once or twice on particularly egregious forehead pimples. But that's about it.
In terms of using makeup on camera, the most recent, the crap shots, the cancer crap shots, the cancer on...
the birthmarks on Alex's arm.
On Alex's arm are in eyeshadow or something.
Yeah.
So we have used makeup for various special effects purposes, but I don't think we have used it much in terms of actually making ourselves look better.
No. You get what you get.
Yeah.
That's who he is.
Yeah.
And we're only getting older, so look forward to that.
Yeah. And we're getting older, and the video resolution is getting higher. So
crap.
It's going to be the perfect.
It's going to be a while before we're
going to get like full pour.
It's going to be a while before it's valid for us to make the leap to 4K, I think. It's going to take a while before that's necessary.
All right.
Anyway, so that's it. In more ways than one. That's it for the LRRcast. Hope that you have enjoyed it, and I hope very much that you enjoy Loading Ready Live. So I guess changes for the way that you will ingest that. If you are watching this on YouTube, that I don't believe will change. I think we've said that we've internally discussed that we're going to be putting the Loading Ready Live replay up on this channel, on the Loading Ready Run YouTube channel. I know that the channel names make that a little weird and less clear, but that's probably what will happen. It won't make sense to run as an audio podcast, though. So if you are listening to it, I guess
stop.
Give it a try on YouTube. Yeah. Podcast-wise, I can tell you, because people ask us a lot, that we are intending to bring back the Magnum Rewatch podcast, for those of you who listen to that, but it's going to be a little while before that comes back.
Magnum isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, Magnum is a completed thing.
It's not like it's not like Magnum is like making new episodes and you guys are falling further behind.
Yeah, exactly. So please keep an eye out on YouTube for the new thing. The first one, barring a delay, the first one should be airing live on Twitch on Saturday, May 14th.
So keep an eye on our Twitch channel,
which is Loading Ready Run, because consistency.
And Twitter and all the various places where we talk about things, and that will tell you when we actually go live with that. So you can not only watch it, but watch it live and
tell us the things that you thought,
and we might look at what you typed.
Yes, and this podcast. But now the other podcasts and Loading Ready Live and everything new that we're doing will be brought to you by you and your kind supporter of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, a page which we will be updating to reflect these changes because there will be some other, apart from the change we're making to the streams, there'll be some other video content as well that we'll be adding to the Patreon that you'll be supporting. And so please check that out, and thank you, because we really appreciate it. So, until next time, there won't be one. Later.